It started with a casual suggestion, one meant to be fair. But within minutes, a bomb of family drama had detonated in a shared kitchen. This is a story about money, expectations, and the often invisible lines drawn between partners and their families. And at the heart of it all, a simple conversation about paying rent. Welcome back to AITA Stories, where everyday choices turn into explosive dilemmas. Today's tale might make you rethink the words, split the cost. So grab your headphones, settle in, and ask yourself, what would you do? Our story begins with a couple, together for over a decade. They've been navigating life as a unit for 10 years, and recently made the big move in together. Again. Why again? Because they had previously lived together with friends, then separately for a while, and now found themselves under the same roof, just the two of them. Well, not quite. You see, the apartment they moved into was owned by the partner's parents. They weren't living with the parents, thankfully, but they were renting from them. So, yes, technically, it was just the couple in the apartment, but the landlord was still family. And here's where things get interesting. The rent? Below market value. Generous, right? It was meant to help the young couple save some money, especially as they were considering buying a home in the near future. A kind gesture, a family perk. But here's the twist. Even with the reduced rent, the original poster, the one telling this story, was paying the full amount themselves, 100% out of pocket. Now, remember, this wasn't just a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. This was a long-term partnership. They'd been together for 10 years, living together, sharing meals, sharing space, sharing everything, except, apparently, the rent. The partner, the boyfriend, wasn't paying a dime toward it. When the poster suggested gently that maybe they should split the rent 50-50, you'd think this would be a reasonable conversation, right? Well, not according to him. He exploded. His argument? Since the rent was being paid to his parents, he felt like paying part of it was just giving money to his own family. It didn't make sense to him. In his words, it's not really like paying rent. But let's unpack that for a moment. If your partner is paying to live somewhere, even if the money goes to your parents, isn't that still rent? Isn't that still a shared expense, especially if you both live there? The poster thought so. And let's be honest, so would most Americans who value financial fairness in relationships. This wasn't about greed. It wasn't about power. It was about partnership, about equality, about both people contributing to the life they shared. But the boyfriend wasn't having it. In fact, he accused her of not appreciating how low the rent was, as if the gift of cheap rent erased the need for shared responsibility. He even said, "Well, if you want me to pay rent, you should have just let us rent from someone else. Then I'd pay." Yes, really, let that sink in. He would have rather paid more to a stranger than split a reduced rent with his partner, just because the money would go to his own parents. The mental gymnastics are Olympic level. So what happened next? The poster stood her ground, calmly explaining that she was happy with the rent, grateful even. But that didn't mean she should carry the full weight alone. She told him it wasn't about the amount, it was about the principle. He stormed off. They didn't speak for the rest of the night. And the next day, still nothing. But that's not all. Later, the boyfriend's mother got involved. Yep, He brought Mommy into the conversation, and her message was loud and clear. You're causing drama over rent. It's not even that much. Why are you being so ungrateful? My son is trying his best. So now the poster wasn't just fighting with her partner. She was being guilt-tripped by his family, all over a suggestion that they split costs equally. She began to second-guess herself. Was she in the wrong? Was this request really out of line? She turned to the internet, to Reddit, to strangers, to you, and asked, AITA for suggesting me and my partner pay 50-50 our below-market rent, even though it's paid to his parents? And the response? Overwhelming support. Because this story, while specific, touches a universal nerve. Let's take a step back and look at the broader lesson. In American culture, partnership is about shared responsibility, not just emotionally, but financially. When two people live together, especially after 10 years, there's a basic expectation. You're in this together. And here's where it gets educational. Money is one of the top causes of conflict in relationships, not because people are greedy, but because of mismatched expectations. One person might see a financial gesture as generous, while the other sees it as normal. One might see rent as just money, while the other sees it as a symbol of fairness and respect. And when those expectations clash, it can reveal deeper issues. In this case, control, entitlement, lack of empathy, a refusal to grow up. The boyfriend's refusal to pay wasn't just about rent. It was about how he viewed his role in the relationship, about how he viewed his family's role in his adult life, and dragging his mother into the fight. That was the cherry on top. Now, let's be honest. Relationships are complex. Money and family make things messier. And yes, living in a place owned by your partner's parents does add a wrinkle. But here's the inspirational part. The poster spoke up. She didn't let guilt silence her. She didn't just eat the cost. She said, "This matters to me." That takes courage. Because sometimes the hardest conversations aren't about massive betrayal or infidelity. They're about the little things, the daily choices, the split bills, the way we show respect through shared effort. This story reminds us that boundaries aren't about being selfish. They're about being equal. And if someone can't handle that, that says more about them than it does about you. So now we ask you, the listener, what do you think? Was the poster wrong to ask for a 50-50 split? Should she have just appreciated the cheap rent and let it go? Or was the boyfriend being immature, entitled, and dismissive? Would you want to build a life with someone who thinks partnership means I live for free while you pay the bills? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you've ever had to have the money talk with a partner, we want to hear how it went. Because stories like this, they're more common than you think. And here's my take. As a storyteller and as a human being, this woman is not just NTA. She's a mirror reflecting what many people are too scared to say out loud. I want fairness. It's not about nickels and dimes. It's about being seen, respected, valued. When one person shoulders the weight alone, it breeds resentment. It builds walls. It turns partners into roommates, or worse, parent and child. And in this case, that dynamic already seems to exist. A man who won't pay rent and then calls his mom when he's held accountable, that's not a partner. That's a dependent. And unless he grows up fast, this woman might realize she doesn't just want a new rent arrangement. She might want a new life. This has been AITA Stories. If you found yourself hooked, enraged, inspired, or all three, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. And remember, in a relationship, fairness isn't just a nice idea. It's the rent you pay to stay in love.